Namaste, everyone. Let's welcome Miss Neha Shah. Neha Shah is giving our 112th presentation on nourishing gut health. Yes, this is our 112th. And this month, we have been doing these presentations more focused towards gut, colon, and colon cancer because, as I explained to you, India Home has a project on colon cancer. And Miss Neha Shah has come with a big recommendation from Harvard because she's fairly well known in those circles for gut health. Neha Shah has a bachelor's degree in nutrition and later master's in and a registered dietitian since 2004. And in addition, she has certified nutrition support clinician credentials from the Board of Nutrition Support, and whichever has to accredit that education. Further, she has a master's degree in public health. And she started her career at Stanford Health, which is a huge, big system where she practiced GI-related cancers, gynecology, head and neck related diagnosis, and also counseled and helped patients recover from gastrointestinal surgeries there. And she's very specialized in this area. And she has a website, Neha Shah Nutrition. With that introduction, I welcome our 112th presenter, Ms. Neha Shah, to present on nourishing gut health.
Thank you so much for having me here today. It's such an honor to present to India Homes. I am going to share my screen and we're going to get started, okay? Does everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to put you in the corner, minimize. Okay, so let's get started. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Again, my name is Neha Shah, and I'm a registered dietitian. I have been specializing in the area of gut health for 20 years now. Actually, about 18 years, but I've been a dietitian for 20 years, so it has been my entire career. So on our agenda today, before we talk about what we can eat and how we can eat to help us with our gut health, first of all, we need to learn a little bit more about what is the gut, the gut microbiome, and how it's related to our gut health. And then once we understand the basics, we will talk about what and how. I'm going to focus on the foods that have fiber and the foods that are fermented foods within the Indian diet to enhance our gut health. I will also talk about the types of fiber, where we can find fiber in the diet, as well as where are the fermented foods in the diet and how we can eat them as well. First of all, let's start off with what and where is the gut. When we hear the word gut, it really relates to our digestive system. Our digestive system is one long tube in our body. It starts with our mouth, then it's our esophagus, our throat, and then our stomach, our intestines are also part of the gut. The liver and the gallbladder and the pancreas, they're not part of the gut per se, but they are connected to our gut. So the health of the liver and gallbladder and pancreas is also dependent on our gut health as well. The gut microbiota and the gut microbiome. Let's talk about these two definitions as we refer to gut health. The word microbiota, what this means is that it is a collection of bacteria, fungi, and viruses that live in our body. They live in our gut. They have a beneficial role in our body, the microbiota, when it's in balance. And it has the type of bacteria and fungi and viruses that we want to live in our body. They can help take care of us. The bacteria, fungi, and viruses, the microbiota, the genetic content of the microbiota is what we call the microbiome. We may have heard of the word microbiome in the news, but the microbiome relates to the genetic content of the microbiota and the different types of bacteria, as an example, that live in our gut is the microbiota, just to reinforce. Now, if you look at the right side of this slide, in the gut, the stomach, the duodenum is the first section of the small intestine. The jejunum and the ileum is the second and third section of the small intestine. And the colon is the last part of the intestine towards the end of our digestive system. And there are different types of bacteria and fungi and viruses that live in each of these areas. And certainly the visual here will highlight which ones live in our gut. And again, these are some of the types that we want to make sure that they live in our gut. Now, our gut microbiome, there's no two people alike. Even if many of you have brothers and sisters and moms and dads and cousins and masis and masas and all of that, no one has the same microbiome. The reason why is that there are different factors that affect the gut microbiome. We're going to go through each. Our big focus today is the diet. What we eat and how we eat directly impacts the growth and the composition of our gut microbiota. Drugs, medications, antibiotics also affects the growth of our microbiota. Where we live, whether it's India or here in the United States, or whether we go travel to the tropics, such as Mexico, all affect the microbiota. And the microbiome is because there are different foods that might be offered there, as well as there are different environments that could exist in the different areas that we live in and visit in. Our microbiota and microbiome is very different as babies, and then as we grow into children, adolescents, adults, as we get older, the microbiome can change over time. So again, equally important how we eat as a child, as a baby, and how we eat going into adulthood will be also an important piece here. And then certainly the microbiome is influenced by the birthing process, whether one has a natural birth or one has a C-section. And then certainly whether babies are fed through the formula or they're breastfed can all impact the gut microbiome. So again, our focus is the diet today and how we can use the diet to enhance our gut microbiome to take care of us. So with diet, how can diet change our gut microbiome? Okay, so we're going to focus on foods that can help our gut microbiome, but I do want to spend some time on how the diet may not help the gut microbiome. If one is eating a diet that's high in added sugars, starches, meaning excess portions, high in fat, especially animal fat, low in dietary fiber, which I will talk about, and high in ultra-processed foods. There are many different types of processed foods out there. Eating a food from a package or a bottle, it is okay. It depends on the ingredients in that package or bottle. So a lot of it, again, is related to portions. So If these foods are coming in every day at almost every single meal, and we're not eating the foods in addition that can help our gut microbiome can get decreased. And when our gut microbiome goes down of the types of bacteria, the types of microbiota that we want to live in our gut, it makes room for the other types of bacteria to start growing and living there, which can possibly cause some inflammation in the gut. The change in the gut microbiota and the microbiome is what we call dysbiosis. So with dysbiosis, it can increase the risk of poor health and symptoms. So this is a small list, but overall, there's a lot of different medical conditions that are related to possibly changes in our gut microbiota. So for example, colon cancer is related to changes in our gut microbiota and microbiome. Gastroparesis, that is a digestive disorder. It means that one can have a very slow stomach. It's the foods from the stomach are moving very slowly from the stomach into the small intestine. Irritable bowel syndrome, IBS. This medical condition involves symptoms that happen almost on a daily basis, constipation or diarrhea, or a lot of gas and bloating, just changes in bowel movements over time. Inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis is linked to changes in our gut microbiome. Even pancreatitis, fatty liver disease, liver cancer, cirrhosis, again, linked to changes in our gut microbiota. And there is a big connection between our brain and our gut. So anxiety and depression has been linked to changes in our microbiome as well. Other medical conditions that we're learning more and more is related to changes in our gut microbiome: diabetes, Parkinson's, heart disease. Again, our gut microbiome takes care of us. So if we're able to take care of our gut microbiome, it can help reduce the risk of changes in our health. Dysbiosis, without any particular diagnosis, it can cause frequent symptoms. Reflux, diarrhea, constipation, gas, and bloating are some examples there. Now, what does it mean to have gut health? So this is a definition very similar to the definition of health defined by the World Health Organization. It is a state of physical and mental well-being without having any gastrointestinal symptoms, minimal diarrhea, constipation, gas, bloating, reflux. If some of these symptoms do happen on occasion, that is also normal. What I'm saying is it's not happening so frequently, often, that it's one does not require to see the doctor often for those symptoms. There's no indications or risk of bowel disease or any other disease in our gut. And then certainly there's no confirmed diagnosis as well. Now, moving into foods, what is dietary fiber? The topic of dietary fiber is something I talk about 30 times a week with all my patients. So dietary fiber, it's found on only plant-based foods, and we're going to talk about each of these foods. Humans, in overall, we do not digest fiber. We do not have the digestive enzymes to break down fiber. That is what digest means. The microbiota, however, they're able to digest fiber. Their process of digestion is called fermentation. Not all fibers in our diet are equal in type, and more than one type can be found in a food. And then all these different types of fiber, they have different functions in the gut. Now, the sources of fiber in our gut is fruits, vegetables, grains, and legumes. And the role of fiber in our gut health is that we eat fiber, whether it's a fruit or a vegetable or a grain like bread or oats. And then our microbiota, when the foods come into our body, our microbiota eventually in the intestines, they will act upon this fiber as their nourishment. It's their food. And when the microbiota acts upon the fiber, they make their own products called short-chain fatty acids. And these short-chain fatty acids, they're very beneficial to our gut. They have been linked to helping to reduce the risk of injury, reduce the risk of inflammation. Fiber has been linked to improving the variety of the gut microbiota and microbiome in our gut to help take care of us. So we want to include fibers at each meal as possible to enhance the health of our microbiota. Now, there are different types of fibers in the diet. You will not find these fibers necessarily on a food label. And the purpose for today is just to remember the words and the basic function. As I mentioned earlier, there are different types of fibers in the diet, and a food can have more than one type of fiber existing in that food. So soluble versus insoluble fibers. This is the ability of the fiber to dissolve and hold in water. And that fiber will hold that water like a sponge. An example I can give is that if you have a dry sponge sitting on your kitchen counter, very hard, and then if you add water to that sponge, it's now that sponge is holding that water, making it nice and soft again. So with soluble fibers, it softens stool as a function in our gut. So for those who are dealing with constipation, soluble fibers are good to eat. Certainly, foods that have soluble fiber is fruit, oat, eggplant, potato, squash. These are some examples here where insoluble fibers, these fibers do not dissolve in water. They remain intact. And when I say it has a laxative effect, they can stimulate bowel movements, which is actually also good for those who are having constipation. So we want both soluble fibers and insoluble fibers to be in the diet to help address that particular issue. Now, if one's having a lot of loose stools or diarrhea, then adding the soluble fibers can also be the type of fibers to include more often in the diet, because these fibers can also help thicken stool as well. So examples of insoluble fibers would be wheat, bindi, corn, spinach, nuts. These are the stems, the leaves, the stalks of foods. If one is eating a salad, that's an example of a salad having insoluble fiber, because the lettuce is insoluble fiber, or any raw vegetables inside that salad is also an insoluble fiber as well. Now, another category of fibers found in the diet is fermentable fibers. This is the ability of the fiber to undergo fermentation. Remember, fermentation is digestion upon fiber by the gut microbiota. There are, again, different types. Some foods are more fermentable than others. So the high fermentable fibers, these could be a little bit more gas producing. They don't have much of a laxative effect, meaning they don't stimulate the bowel movements to pass as easily. Examples of fermentable fibers is wheat, gobi, beans, chana, dal, garlic are some examples of fermentable fibers. Low fermentable fibers, they're not really as gas producing. They can stimulate bowel movements. Oat, quinoa, spinach, nuts, and seeds are examples of low fermentable fibers. So if one is having a lot of gas and bloating, this is something that I look for in one's diet. I'm like, okay, is one eating a lot of high fermentable fibers that might be causing all this gas in this person? And do we need to make substitutions and replacements with low fermentable fibers? Another property of fiber, again, different types of fibers are in the diet, is what we call viscous fibers. Some are more than others. This is the ability of the fiber to resist flow in the gut. So it slows down movement. And overall, the fibers that are high in this property, it forms a gel to thicken stool. It has less of a laxative effect. Examples, again, are oat, chana, dal are some examples there, where the fiber that is low does not form a gel, has more of a laxative effect. And again, examples are spinach, nuts, and seeds. Now, prebiotic fibers. These are the type of fibers I would like all of you just really pay attention to on how we can include them in our diet. Not all fibers are prebiotic. So prebiotic fibers, these are specific fibers that target the growth of specific microbiota that are beneficial to our health. So examples of prebiotic fibers, oat, wheat, banana, apple, mango. Again, beans, chana dal, gobi, mushroom, garlic, and onion. This is just a sample list. But if one is able to include prebiotic fibers on a daily basis, every day, even twice a day, 3 times a day at meals, this is going to help certain types of microbiota really promote their growth in our gut to help take care of us. Now, I'm going to be highlighting certain research studies throughout this talk. So one research study I like to highlight is that fiber reduces the risk of colon cancer. This is an earlier study, but is still very relevant. The European Prospective Investigation into Cancer and Nutrition Study, what this study has done is that they followed many individuals over 11 years, and they found that 4,517 cases of colon and rectal cancer were found. Before the study, they collected diet surveys from each individual about what they're eating and the types of foods are coming into the diet. So they took a look at these diet surveys, and the fiber intake was collected from the total cereal and fruit vegetable fibers. And what they found is that the total fiber intake was associated with a less risk for colon and rectal cancer with every 10-gram increase in fiber intake. And then the fibers found in cereals and fruit and vegetables was associated with less risk for colon cancer. And then fiber intake from cereals only was associated with less risk for rectal cancer. So what does this tell us? Overall, it sends a message that including fiber often in your diet with more portions, and again, depending on how much your body can handle at a time and what type, is going to be very important to reduce the risk of colon cancer. The foods that have fiber overall are also linked to other less risk for breast cancer, less risk for stomach cancer, less risk for prostate cancer. So again, I cannot stress enough that the importance of eating fiber at each meal to help reduce our risk. Now, what are fermented foods? Okay, so fermented foods, these foods are actually not necessarily, may not have fiber at all. These foods, active bacteria live cultures are added to these foods, and the live bacteria will digest these foods to make another type of food that we can eat. So with that said, where can we find the fermented foods in the diet? So examples of Indian foods that are fermented, chas, dahi, dokla, dosa, idli. Those are some examples of how bacterial cultures have been added to these foods to make these foods that we eat often in our Indian diet. Other foods outside the Indian diet, kefir, it tastes like yogurt. It's like a liquid beverage that you can find at the grocery store. Miso is often eaten in Japanese cuisine. Sauerkraut is cabbage, fermented cabbage. Sourdough bread, if you include sourdough bread in your diet, fermented foods, sourdough is often made with active cultures, again, to make that bread. Tempeh is fermented tofu. Kimchi, again, spicy cabbage. Kombucha is fermented black tea. So these are, again, some examples that exist in the diet. But same thing with fiber. We want to find a way to include fermented foods daily in our diet, once a day, twice a day, to help enhance our gut health. Now, how does fermented foods help our gut health? So again, as I mentioned earlier, bacterial live cultures are found in many foods. Now, some of these fermented foods go through heating and processing after the food is made. So sometimes that can reduce the live cultures found in these foods. Yogurt, chas, kefir, they have actually the live cultures found in those foods, where other foods, it might be a little less. But we're learning more and more that whether it's less or not, there's still some benefit to eat these foods for our gut health. When the fermented foods are eaten, the live cultures, again, they improve the variety, the diversity of our gut microbiota and our gut microbiome to strengthen our gut barrier and to help reduce inflammation. So we're starting to see a lot of studies showing that it can do this. And again, it can strengthen our gut health to help reduce the risk of other diseases and symptoms. Now, another study that I want to highlight here is that the use of yogurt to reduce constipation. So in this one study of 120 adult patients with constipation, there were two groups. Each group had 60 patients in each. The first group, group one, was given 110 ml of pasteurized yogurt twice a day for 7 weeks. And the other group was not given the yogurt, and they were given 110 ml of pasteurized milk twice a day for 7 weeks. And then stool samples were taken before and after 7 weeks. So what they found is that after 4 weeks of group one eating the yogurt twice a day, there was an increase in the number of bowel movements to greater than 6 times a week. And most patients in that group reported less straining, and it was easier to pass for the bowel movement. And then after 7 weeks with group one, when they measured the assessed the type of microbiota in the stool samples, lactobacilli, that is a type of microbiota that lives in our body. 50% of these patients had a significant increase in lactobacilli, speculating that was also part of the reason why many of these patients had less constipation. And the short chain fatty acids, going back, that this is the byproduct that is made when our microbiota acts upon fiber, there was a significant increase in that as well. So yogurt is good. I will encourage yogurt as a part of your daily diet if you're able to tolerate yogurt. Now, one may ask me, I don't really eat much fiber in my diet. How do I add fiber in my diet? So I'm going to go through 3 separate phases here. Me suddenly telling someone to start eating fiber all at once at every single meal, there is a chance that one can develop a lot of gas and bloating from that, because we need to give our body some time to adjust to eating more fiber in the diet. So we start with including at least one food with fiber at each meal. This could be blended, cooked, mashed, minced forms of tolerance, whether it's a fruit or a vegetable or oat, or whether it's dal or chana, like one food with fiber at each meal in amounts that you feel comfortable with. And then we start to build. Once we added that one food with fiber at each meal, then it would be, how do we build from there? Then we add another food with fiber to 1 meal for now, then to 2 meals, and then to 3 meals. And then each meal may have 2 foods with fiber at that meal. Different raw and whole forms would be okay. And then we maintain it. So each meal as a goal, we encourage 2 to 3 foods with fiber at each meal. This could be a mix of fruit, vegetable, dal, roti, again, multiple foods with fiber in amounts that you can tolerate to help you bring in the fiber. Now, as I mentioned earlier, me simply telling someone to eat more fiber, that's not much guidance. So if one is interested in learning a little bit more about how to add fiber in the diet, how to make any symptoms of diarrhea or constipation or gas or bloating less, or if one is diagnosed with any of those medical conditions that I talked about earlier, it would be helpful to bring in a dietitian so we can look at the diet and find different ways to help you do this. Now, I'm going to go through the different food groups in the diet, okay? And I'm going to give some practical ideas on how to eat these foods. So veg protein, this is what we call the plant protein as well. This is the beans, the chana, the dal. This could be nuts like almonds or pistachios. This could be also quinoa. These are all examples of veg protein. And it's the plant protein that has the fiber. So many individuals that I've counseled, many Indians are also vegetarian or vegan. I'm vegetarian myself. So it is important that we include a protein at each meal that we eat to make sure that we get enough protein in our diet. So examples of how to eat veg protein is we can blend or mash any type of bean or chickpea or lentil into foods. Quinoa. Now, this is something that may not be often eaten in a diet with, in an Indian diet, but quinoa is also offered in many grocery stores. It's like a high protein seed that you can heat and boil, but a half a cup of quinoa is 5 grams of protein, and this can be added to poa, or pulao, or upma that may not have as much protein and it doesn't have much of a taste. So that can easily maybe mix well for those who are open to trying quinoa. Peanuts, a lot of chutneys may have some peanuts. Blending peanuts into chutneys or sprinkling peanuts or roasted peanuts or cashews or a pulao or poa is another way to add protein here. Of course, any type of dal to any type of meal will always add protein. A half a cup of dal is close to 10 grams of protein. So good protein there. And then for those who eat tofu, you can add tofu into sag or add on the side with white rice. I put a star next to prebiotic fibers. So again, the rajma, the chana, the dal are examples of prebiotic fibers. And remember, prebiotic fibers are specific fibers that target specific microbiota to enhance their growth. Now, dairy. So dairy, 2 categories here. It could be fermented dairy or it could be non-fermented dairy. How we eat dairy, it depends on the amount that comes in our diet. Foremost, a lot of the dairy found in the United States, it's going to be common pasteurized dairy. This is what we want. Dairy for our overall health and for gut health, a sprinkle, a slice, a side, a little bit in a meal is okay to eat. When dairy becomes a problem, when it comes large amounts in the diet that are often eaten on a day-to-day basis, creamy sauces, fried dairy, big slice of pizza almost often in the week. It's okay to eat that pizza. It's okay to have that cream sauce, but I recommend that it's not an everyday food. Chas and dahi, they're fermented foods. Again, fermented foods. They have the live cultures, especially with the fermented dairy. I will encourage all of you, if you like those foods, I would encourage all of you to include at least one of those foods once a day in your diet. Good source of protein as well. Fried dairy like paneer pakoda or any type of fried cheese can be a large amounts of dairy coming in. Again, if you're at an Indian wedding or some party and they're offering as an appetizer shared with others, small amounts would be okay to eat. For those who do not have dairy in your diet, it's okay to have the dairy substitutes. Milk made from almond milk or rice milk or coconut milk is perfectly fine as well. Okay. Now, how to eat fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables, a big source of fiber in our diet, big source of prebiotic fibers in our diet. Fruits and vegetables, I will recommend that these foods come in every day in your diet, either a fruit or a vegetable or even both at each meal to the best of your ability. I'm going to recommend a goal of 5 portions throughout the meals in the day. A half a cup is about the size of a tennis ball. So that's what I'm going to recommend. And then any form, it could be blended, it could be cooked, it could be mashed, it could be minced if too much raw is not handled well. And here are some examples of fruits and vegetables that are offered in our own Indian diet. I highlighted again which ones are the prebiotic fibers as an example. Apple, banana, mango, all examples. Any type of gourd squash is okay. Kiwi is also a prebiotic fiber. Kiwi, there's a lot of good studies out there showing that 2 kiwis a day can help with constipation. Good source of soluble fiber as well to help with that. Eggplant, cucumber, carrots, gajar is all other examples that we can include in the diet. Now, how to eat grains. Grains include the categories of breads, rice, those are quinoa is a grain seed. So adding one whole grain to each meal again is part of eating fiber for gut health. Poa, upma, whether the upma is made from wheat or oatmeal or masala oats. Chapati, tepla, or roti are some examples there. Dosa and idli are fermented foods, okay to eat because we have that dal in there. That's also functions as a prebiotic fiber. Sweets. Sweets is the same thing as dairy that we encourage small amounts shared with others, okay to eat sweets. But it's how we eat sweets that makes a difference in our health. Large amounts of added sugars has been linked to changes in our gut microbiome. So it's the quantity that's the focus here. Not to eat sweets every day. If eaten, small amounts are really okay, like a taste. Sharing sweets with others, we talked about that. If you have a problem with dairy, use lactose-free milk to make kulfi or kheer or halwa or rasmalai. Those are some examples there. Any desserts made from yogurt like Shrikhand would be another way to bring in fermented foods or fermented sweets. And then if you're using any type of sugar or jaggery to sweeten chai or cha or coffee, it's going to be just a taste again to sweeten that food. And then certainly any type of sodas and fruit juices, it's not an everyday aspect of the diet. Now, to build a balanced meal, you heard from me on how each food group that has fiber, how can we eat it in the diet? Now, when we're looking at building a healthy plate, a meal has multiple food groups at each meal. So I'm going to start with the different corners, like either including a fruit or a vegetable or both at each meal. So one corner of the plate may have a fruit. Or may not have the fruit, but there'll be other meals in the diet as a part of that day will include that fruit. Vegetables, this could be potato, cucumber, carrots, spinach, tomato in one corner. Roti, as this plate has shown, chapati, dosa, poa, noodle, pulao, that's one corner of the plate. Now, especially if one is vegetarian or vegan, protein could be the yogurt, and it could be also like the dal or chana or tofu. So that's another corner of the plate. So when we have different corners of the plate with different food groups, this will best bring in different types of fibers in your diet to help enhance gut health. I will encourage all of you to practice when next time you have an empty plate and you're putting food on your plate. Pretend there's different corners of the plate and there's some protein, some vegetables, a grain, maybe a fruit, a fermented food as a part of this meal to help you get the variety of different foods that can help with our gut health. Now, beyond our diet, our brain and our gut are connected to, our gut. So diet's not the only influence on our microbiota or a microbiome. So beyond the diet, diaphragmatic breathing, this is a type of breathing technique that's we're learning more and more from research. It's what we call belly breathing. So when we breathe up and down, up and down. We're using our lungs. And of course, we breathe through our lungs. But belly breathing, it keeps our rib cage, our chest very still. And our belly is going in and out, in and out. And some of the studies have shown that diaphragmatic breathing has helped, can like possibly reduce the symptoms of reflux and bloating. So there are videos out there to show how one can do diaphragmatic breathing to help bring in this type of breathing daily, even if it's like for 30 seconds to a minute once a day to help practice this. Meditation, getting enough sleep, all linked to our gut health. Yoga has been shown to reduce gut symptoms as well. And when I say mindful eating practices, taking your time to eat, chewing well, those are some examples that has been shown to enhance our gut health as well. And one final study is that yoga has been shown to reduce symptoms in those diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome. Again, irritable bowel syndrome, a constellation of different changes in the bowel movements, constipation or diarrhea that happens often in the week for at least a few months. And a study of 79 adult patients with IBS, again, 2 groups. Group 1, 38 patients were asked to follow and take a hatha yoga class for 60 minutes. And group 2, they were not, these individuals, patients were not taking any type of yoga class. They were given a 10-minute video on different mind and gut therapies to help reduce symptoms. And what they were assessing for is symptoms of IBS, again, gas, bloating, pain, diarrhea, constipation before and after the study. And what they found is that after at least 4 weeks into taking the yoga classes, group 1, all symptoms were greatly decreased with group 1. And overall, the study has concluded that yoga is a very safe intervention for patients exhibiting different gastrointestinal symptoms with IBS. Now, finally, I want to end with giving a really great resource. It's called the International Foundation for Gastrointestinal Disorders. As a disclosure, I am an advisor for this organization, but this organization has so much information on their website on the different medical conditions out there that involve changes in our gut, involves different information on fiber, fermented foods, and whatnot. So I will encourage all of you to take a look at the website if there's information that you feel like would be helpful to learn a little bit more about. And with that, I am done with our talk, but we have about 15 minutes for any questions, which I welcome.
I'm posting that website on the chat so that they can copy in. IFFGT, right?
Yes.
GT.org. Okay.
Neha ji, I have a question about the bloating stomach. What kind of food should I eat to for bloating?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one aspect is with bloating. Actually, the website's IFFGD, not T, but I can write that later towards the end.
Sure.
So with bloating, a couple of things with bloating. First of all, it would be helpful to learn a little bit more about the type of bloating. So I know I mentioned different symptoms can come up with changes in gut health, but there are different types of constipation, different types of diarrhea, different types of bloating. So if we're looking at bloating, that's more like upper stomach bloating, that can happen within even 30 minutes of eating or even during the meal. So, and then the other types of bloating can happen an hour later or 2 after a meal, and that's going to be more lower intestinal bloating. So if this bloating is more upper bloating, one can have a lot of burping or belching. So this is where that type of bloating, it helps to chew well. More so because swallowing air can lead to more of that upper bloating. If this bloating is later, like hours later after a meal, that's going to be more lower intestinal bloating. So a couple of things that can be done there is that one, there are lists out there of fibers that don't cause as much bloating. So for example, beans, chickpeas, lentil, they're all gas producing fibers, still okay to eat. However, if one's having a lot of bloating with those foods because they are fermentable, they are gas producing, one can soak those foods in water for at least 4 hours or more and then cook with new water, and that can help reduce some of the bloating. Certain types of fruits and vegetables that are less gas producing, banana, cantaloupe, kiwi, blueberries are some examples of fruits that are less bloating, or something like spinach or potato are some vegetables that don't cause as much gas or bloating, where other fruits like apple or watermelon or cauliflower or broccoli are going to be some examples of vegetables that can cause more bloating. So again, there's no need to avoid any of these foods, but it's learning a little bit more how much and how often in the week. So my recommendation is to start making the dal or the chana, soaking them in water and then cook with new water. That's one way to reduce the bloating, because those foods can come in often in our diet. And then certainly some of those fruits and vegetables can be brought in more as well.
Usually, whatever after I eat, I feel right away the bloating, like
Oh, right away. Okay. Okay.
upper stomach, you say.
Yes.
Like upper part.
So if the bloating is more in the upper stomach, then it might be more related to swallowing a lot of air while we're eating, because that air is warming up in the stomach. And then it may make you feel a little full too. So chewing well and doing smaller bites at a time is actually the most likely effective way to reduce the upper bloating.
Don't eat too fast.
Yes. But even you telling me that the bloating is happening right away, that tells me it might be more in the stomach versus in the intestines.
Oh, okay. And after I eat, I have a stomach ache sometimes, lately I feel like nauseous, whatever I eat. Right away I feel nauseous. And,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Because of that, do you think?
It's hard to say. Nausea, a couple of things that what can cause nausea. Sometimes we can eat all the right foods in the world. If too much comes in or too fast, foods that are high in fat, meaning if there's a lot of foods cooked in oil, like large amounts of oil, or foods that are cooked in, or foods that are fried, whether it's fried snacks or anything fried, can possibly increase the nausea. And the way to manage the nausea, again, the same concept of don't chew so fast, take your time with eating, but it's also not to let yourself overeat. Eat enough to satisfy your hunger, and then eat enough to keep you full, but not overeat. And that's one way to manage the nausea as well. Another thing that can help with nausea is ginger. There's a lot of good studies out there showing that ginger can help with nausea. If you like adding, any of you like to add ginger to tea, or even drinking ginger tea can be helpful towards nausea as well.
Thank you very much. Good to know.
Neha ji,
Huh?
I have a question. That I'm worried. I have little sinus problem, and I'm worried about yogurt and banana. But until afternoon, can I eat yogurt room temperature? Is good.
So yogurt is okay to eat for sinus issues. I don't recommend eating yogurt at room temperature because that might increase the risk of spoiling the yogurt. We want to actually eat it coming out of the refrigerator as much as we can.
Yeah, I know that. Or sometimes I am keeping, if it is
Huh?
cold, then I put in microwave. It's okay?
I
And-
think eating the yogurt warm, you know, I think what that might do is that it might lessen the live cultures found in the yogurt. I will highly encourage yogurt as much as you can to eat it as is. But you know, we all add yogurt to our cooking process as well. So if you were to eat it warm, microwaving
Keep
it,
outside,
I
yeah.
think that would be okay, but you may not get the full benefit of the live cultures in that yogurt.
And what about banana?
Banana is okay to eat.
For,
Couple of
for
things about
sinus cold is okay?
so with sinus issues, I'm not too familiar with the link between banana and sinus, but bananas overall, you know, it is connected to our gut health. Banana is a soluble fiber. It's a prebiotic fiber. So remember what I was
Calcium.
saying, that the prebiotic fiber helps to enhance our gut microbiota. So I have to take a further look at the studies between sinus issues and our gut health, but banana is okay to eat.
It doesn't harm for the sinus, right?
So sorry, I think I heard two questions at once.
It's not good for the sinus. I'm feeling that for cold, banana is no good.
I don't know of the connection between the banana and the sinus, but one thing I know is that our body can handle different amounts. So one thing you can try is try like 1/4 of a banana and see how you feel. Then try half a banana. Sometimes smaller amounts of the banana versus the whole banana, we
Yeah,
might
that's
notice
good.
different effect. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm using in tea instead of sugar, honey. Is it good?
That's okay. Yes.
Okay. And
Yes.
one more, I'm sorry, that in food, instead of sugar, jaggery or brown sugar, I'm using, that's good?
That's okay. Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
It's the
right?
amount. Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Neelam Puri ji, like you can ask your question.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Neha ji. My question is also related to yogurt. Like, I want to know what is the big difference between yogurt and kefir in their processing as well as in their impact on our microbiome?
So a couple of things there is that it's the different types of cultures that are used to make yogurt and kefir. That's the main difference between them. In terms of the impact on the gut health, they both have been shown to help improve gut health. Both have been studied more in the constipation area more than anything else. And then yogurt has been especially studied to help reduce inflammation in certain medical conditions. So the difference between yogurt and kefir is the type of bacteria used to make that food. At the end of the day, they're
Can
both
we
gonna
make kefir at home?
you can make kefir at home,
How
yes.
do you make it?
You know, that I never have done before. I always
Okay.
done the easy way and gone to the store and bought the kefir,
Buy
different
it.
flavors
Okay.
there, but it can be done at home. Just as yogurt can be made at home, kefir can be made at home as well. Yes.
Like if I
Yes.
use kefir starter to add
Yes.
into our milk, can it
Yes.
create kefir?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I'm sure there's recipes that we can find online, but yes, it is
Online.
possible
Yeah.
to make kefir
Yeah.
at home. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
One
Okay,
more I want to ask
Ratna ji,
you.
Ratna ji, yes, Ratna ji, please go ahead.
Thank you, Ji. Thank you, Geeta.
Madam Neha Shah.
Ah, yes.
I have a esophagus problem. I cannot swallow my water or food sometimes. My GE doctor did for me the endoscopy, and he said esophagus and colonoscopy, everything good. But so many times the gas come, and I have some problem, swallowing issues. What is that? Which can help that one? Thank you.
So you're asking about acid reflux, right? That's the problem. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So acid reflux, it's interesting that you asked that, because we're starting to see studies that eating fiber can help make the acid reflux less. Some of the studies out there have shown that fiber supplement, like something like 5 grams of psyllium husk. If I mention any brands, I'm not endorsing any brand. I'm just for educational purposes. So Metamucil, as an example, is psyllium husk, 5 grams a day, has been shown to reduce acid reflux. Other aspects of acid reflux is also tied in with how we eat. So taking your time to eat, smaller bites at a time, and not to overeat can also reduce acid reflux. The swallowing issue, so sometimes it's hard to say, because like sometimes when the acid comes up, it can cause some damage in our throat over time, and that can irritate our throat, and that can lead to some swallowing issue. What I will recommend, and there's no major studies to say this, but anytime you feel that irritation or any acid coming up, I would encourage you to drink a small glass of water to wash it right to wash that acid down right away. My concern there is that if there's any acid coming up, it's touching your throat. We don't want that acid to touch the throat too long, because it can cause some irritation. And then that I hope will help wash it down right away and not let that acid touch your throat. I think other aspects of acid, remember the belly breathing that I talked about, in and out? That's been shown to help reduce reflux. And I would encourage you to try that once a day as a start. That's a non-medicine way, non-diet way to help with this. And I will ask you to try that.
Thank you.
I will send Dr. Rao a really good video that I like for belly breathing, and he can pass it along to all of you. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Good
Thank
morning,
you.
Yes, Balaji, go ahead.
Hi, Neha ji.
Hi.
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
Neha ji, yogurt is better to eat it or the kefir? Because kefir I
Both
eat
are
it
good.
with the pita bread, but I don't know I'm supposed to eat it with pita bread and zakar.
A couple of things there is that both are okay to eat. Yogurt's going to be more thicker. Kefir is more of a liquid that you drink. So if one wanted to take plain kefir and put cumin and salt in there, I think that would be okay, like what we do with buttermilk. But yogurt, they may have different purposes, but yogurt's more of a,
More
it's
healthy.
not a liquid. It's like it just a thicker, substance, thicker. So I think both would be okay to include in the diet from that perspective.
Thank you very much.
Hello,
Yes,
Neha.
ma'am.
Balaji, please go ahead.
Oh, thank you.
I-
First of all, thank you very much, Neha. This was excellent. We really enjoyed it, as always, and very informational. My question is about yogurt. Okay, we have friends and who start with saying, "Oh, I brought this culture from India 20 years ago or 30 years ago, and it's still going and it's great." And then we heard another lecture that Dr. Rao, another guest lecture, where they talked about varying the yogurt culture just to get diversity. So now, is it good to keep that same culture going, or is it better to vary it?
I'm a big fan of variety as much as we can. So I think it would be good to add the variety. I'm not too familiar with, in terms of live cultures, of what's their expiration date. I think that's what we're looking at from 20 years ago till now. I'm always going to be a big fan of buying a new culture to help with this because I don't know the full effect. Bacteria in general, any type of bacterial life culture, they don't live forever. They're just living beings, just like so they all have their birth and death cycle too. So I don't know how active that culture is from a long time ago versus a new culture that you can purchase now. So my recommendation is to try new, but I think it depends on the expiration date on that culture, and it might differ from the type of strains.
Well, when I mean the same one, I mean we bring some yogurt back, or somebody brought some yogurt,
Yes.
and they're using it every week to make fresh yogurt. So it's still working because you still have yogurt, but you're saying you don't know
I
how
don't
they
know,
multiply,
yes.
stuff like that. So then
Exactly.
would you say every few months I would switch and get a new culture so I can introduce diversity? What would you say would be the time frame?
So I don't know the answer to that question. I think it might be more related to the type of bacterial life culture. Unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that question, just to be honest. Yeah.
Thank you.
I see.
Geetaji?
Yes, I see. Who is that?
Yeah,
I don't see their name. Oh, yes, Mangalaji, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, Neha, it was real nice and very, the language you use, we can understand it very well because you define all the words. That's really helpful for us. The
Thank
second
you.
thing I like to, two questions. Your office is in Flushing? Your office is Flushing?
So I live in San Francisco. So
Oh, I see.
so
Okay.
all my appointments are through video. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got you. The second thing, I heard that the oatmeal, to eat the oatmeal every day is not good. Is it so?
So I think it depends on the context that you're asking. There's always something out there. This food is good. This food is not good. I would have to say, from my years of experience, oatmeal is a food that can provide many benefits to our own health. It's been connected to, I think, and when we're looking at gut health, it's a prebiotic fiber. Again, it promotes the growth of certain types of bacteria that we want in our microbiome, which can help us fight inflammation. So I will encourage oat. It's rich in soluble fiber. So soluble fiber has been associated with reducing the risk of heart disease, or can help lower high cholesterol. So that's another benefit of eating oatmeal or masala oat or oat upma, any type of oat from that perspective. Another benefit of oat, which I did not talk about today in the time that we have, but there's also another substance found in many foods that have fiber, what we call resistant starch. And resistant starch also nourishes our gut microbiota and gut microbiome. And resistant starch is formed when you boil a food and then you cool it down with certain foods. When we heat up oatmeal and then we cool it down, that cooling process makes a resistant starch that's also nourishes our gut health as well. Leftover potato, reheated, leftover rice also do the same thing. So there's multiple benefits to eating oats. I think if one's dealing with other medical conditions, like say diabetes, then it's the portion of oats that I'm more focused on. A size of a tennis ball is a half a cup. My woman's fist is about 1 cup. So I tend to recommend a portion around there to bring in oats. So it all depends on what you heard about oats and what's not good for our health, but I want to highlight some benefits that oat is actually good for us.
I have a question.
The last question is, what is the reason for the nail fungus? What is the reason for it?
Reason for what?
Fungus. Nail fungus.
Oh, so fungus is actually naturally exists in our body. Again, there's different types of fungi, different types of viruses, different types of bacteria that live in our gut. So they all have a different role in taking care of us. Now, there's so many different types of bacteria, fungi, and viruses. I can't highlight each one of them and what they do, but I can just say that it's not a harmful to have some natural aspects of fungi in our body. We just want to make sure we keep the ones that take care of us in balance we want to nourish them as much as we can with our diet. So to keep the helpful fungi in our body.
Geeta ji, I have a question. Can I?
1 minute, I had to ask Neha, is it okay like to take 2 more questions?
I think it all
No.
depends on, I mean, is there any, I can't seem to tell who has questions or
Yeah, like
not.
I can ask, I know like who
have
is
a
asking,
question.
but only 2 questions. Okay, last 2 questions, Leela ji and Madhu ji. Please, Leela ji, go ahead.
Good morning, Neha ji.
Hi.
This is Leela. And whenever I drink water, why do I get burping? No matter where I am, how much I am drinking, but soon drinking water makes me burp and burp.
So I think it depends on how you're drinking water. If the water is too fast, large amounts at once as you swallow, that can cause a lot of swallowed air. Every time we swallow air. So to help with reduce the risk of burping with water, then slow sips, no straw, would be one way to do that. And of course,
No
plain
matter-
water. Oh, go ahead.
No matter what kind of water or what time of the time and how much, it doesn't matter. Just drink water, whether it is warm or cold or whatever the situation. Little drink or more drink, nothing counts. Just drink water and burping. It is annoying when I am in the
I'm
social
sure
life.
it's annoying. Yeah. That would be the primary reason I think may cause more burping is the swallowing air. And that's something to also pay attention to, is that we're dealing with any symptoms of burping or belching, whether it's with water or with something else, breathing
Just
through our
water.
nose. Yeah, just water. Yeah. So it might be the amount and how fast you're drinking. And I will encourage you, if you feel like you already practiced slow sips and not drinking it too fast, and you're still having problems with belching.
Yeah.
Sometimes a lot of belching can be also related to reflux. You can get that certainly evaluated by a doctor if that's the case. I don't know the full reasons why you're having bloating with water, but those are some reasons I can speculate.
Yeah, whether I'm standing and drinking, sitting and drinking,
yeah.
or I'm drinking warm water or cold water, nothing makes any difference. Just drink and burp.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, that must be very uncomfortable. Sure.
Okay, last question, like Madhuji, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you, Neha. I know like we're going over time, please.
I know, I'm sorry, but I just wanted to ask this question. Like I also have like bloating and acidity things and those lot of things I don't agree, but from quite some time I drink hot milk with haldi at night. So is it good? You said because you were talking about yogurt and milk. So nobody asked about milk, so I was waiting for
Milk
that.
is fine. I think as we get older, you know, again, there's so many different reasons why we may have bloating, extra swallowed air, different gas producing foods, excess portions. Constipation can cause a lot of bloating. It's like,
Right.
this is where I sit down with someone and then we look into the diet and everything else there. But with milk, a couple of things there is that milk has a high amount of lactose. Lactose is the natural milk sugar found in milk or any dairy. As we get older, the enzyme lactase goes down, and that affects our ability to digest lactose well. And sometimes as we get older, one can develop a little bit more gas and bloating when one can drink milk. So one thought is to try lactose-free milk to see if that would
I
help
do
you
that
have.
mostly.
Oh, you already
Mostly
do
I
that. Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah. And
but
then
I
again, if
drink
you're,
every day, mostly at night because
that's
I feel
okay. That's perfectly
comfortable.
fine. Yeah,
and
that's
yogurt
fine.
also. Yeah, I eat yogurt also.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's okay. Lots of
Especially
really good
yogurt
questions. Yeah.
Pardon?
I said lots of good questions.
Yeah, I know, but we all are seniors and we have all our problems. So we want to ask you all
Of course, I understand. My
And
parents
I
ask
feel
me all the
yogurt,
time.
yogurt I eat normally like you eat some kind of raita, you can put salad in it. Is it good that way if you can do that?
That's okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you, Geetaji.
So thank you, Neha. Like, it's a lot of questions. You answered all of them so patiently.
Geetaji,
Yeah,
I have
very,
little
very nice.
question for
Yeah.
rice.
Even the food.
Which
food-
rice is better, basmati or jasmine rice?
Both are fine.
But I have
Both are.
digest problem. Say I am 70 up age. That's why I'm worried about basmati rice.
So basmati rice or jasmine rice, I think both are okay to have. Again, it goes back to how much one can eat at once. I will recommend that you try size of a tennis ball portion, see how you feel. If you feel okay, you can try woman's size fist a portion to see how you feel. Boiling the rice and cooling down the rice, and even if you reheat the rice again, that brings that resistant starch. Remember, that can help nourish our gut microbiota as well.
Is
You
it
are
kolam
talking
rice
about
the better?
basmati rice, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
but,
okay. But
kolam
it's
rice is
okay.
lighter.
In
I
this
felt.
age, is it okay for basmati rice?
Yes.
For digest? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yes,
very
of course.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you so
thank you,
much.
Neha. Like wonderful time. Like, you gave, so much of valuable information to our seniors, and you answered them so patiently and in their own language, Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's truly an honor to be here today. Thank you for inviting me to give this talk, and I look forward to future collaborations with India
Definitely.
Homes.
Yes, we would like to have you more often. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much.